Who remembers the mighty earthquake? Today's all about John Tenta. The mighty earthquake sent 28 men to the hospital. Let's do it. Let's get sick. Earthquake, daddy. You knew when you were in the ring with Big John Tenta, the Canadian earthquake. Your ass was in trouble when you heard the tremors are coming, daddy. One of the biggest stars in the late 90s or early 90s. Earthquake was one badass wrestler. Let's get to it. I love his music. Okay, here we go. John Tenta Day on my channel. Canadian earthquake. Take a look at the big man right there, alongside Dino Bravo, Jimmy Hart, main eventing SummerSlam 1990 against Hulk Hogan. What set up this feud was Hogan was on the Brother Love show, and Hogan was doing his thing and spitting off his rhetoric in 1990, and Earthquake didn't like it too much. Earthquake came out there, gave Hogan a beating, gave him the earthquake aftershock about 5 or 6 times, laid Hogan out on the Brother Love show, and came as close to killing Hulkamania as anyone. Earthquake was a star in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. He was a star. He debuted in the WWF, and he attacked the Ultimate Warrior. Dino Bravo and the Ultimate Warrior were having a strength contest, and John Tenta came out of the crowd, and him and Dino Bravo, they did a number on the Warrior. Earthquake was a badass heel. Him and Dino Bravo were definitely a force to be reckoned with. Earthquake at one point sent 28 men to the hospital with his finishing move, the one I showed you at the beginning of the video. He'd run to one side of the ring and put the kibosh on him. I mean, this guy was he was a star. The Canadian earthquake from Vancouver, BC. He was big, he was mean, and he was bad, and he took Hogan as far as Hogan would go. He just had the it factor when it came to wrestling, and the it factor when it came to being a badass heel. John Tenta, since gone, for a while now, but damn, he was a good one. Not only that, but if you ever played the wrestling arcade game with all the old school wrestlers, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but Earthquake, he was always the coolest wrestler to play on there. I actually met John Tenta Earthquake in 2001. He was at WrestleMania Access, and I met Earthquake, and he was a very, very nice guy. He was sitting with Typhoon, and that brings me to my next point. Him and Typhoon were WWF Tag Team Champions at one time, the Natural Disasters. Great tag team, very popular with the fans. And then later in his career, he left for a while, came back in 94, had some feuds with Adam Bomb, and then he went over to WCW. WCW didn't, they had him as the Avalanche, and actually this was pretty good. They had him work with Sting and Macho Man and Hulk, and Starrcade, Starrcade 94, him and Brutus and Kevin Sullivan all formed a threesome, a three-man team. And they were, I want to say, the Triangle of Terror, the Trio of Terror. But him, Kevin Sullivan, and Brutus were all on a team. And they called him the Avalanche in WCW. And later he went through some gimmicks. WCW didn't know what to do with him. They had him as the Shark. And they had him as John Tenta. And he wrestled Big Bubba Rogers at July 96, Bash at the Beach, the event that Hogan turned in a Carson City Silver Dollar match. Pretty damn interesting stuff. WCW didn't have a clue the talent this guy had. This guy weighed 450 pounds and he could move. He wasn't a big fat slob. I mean, he was an athlete, and he could have been WWF champion as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the belt wouldn't fit him because he's so damn big. But this guy, John Tenta, true legend in wrestling. And this is another thing that pisses me off about YouTube is Earthquake's name is never, ever dropped, ever mentioned until today. And I'm doing it because I remember the Earthquake. I love the Earthquake. He's one of my all-time favorites. He had a great finishing move. Had a good run in WCW, a great run in WWF. Was a huge star in 1990 with Hulk Hogan. All right, one more look. Earthquake, baby. Love you guys from Gemini. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll play you some music out.